Man, what is up, guys? I am just reading this as I start this stream that Oregon and Washington, holy moly, they just got shafted. They're coming into the Big Ten at a partial share at $30 million. Imagine that. Oh man, this is so great. But man, the news has been light this past month. I've been praying to the football gods, like, give me something to talk about every day. And I feel bad because there's a lot that I want to express with the Buffs. I guess I'll get to that tomorrow, having 3 days of practice and well off footage and press conferences to watch. But I think today, mainly, we're going to still continue this conference realignment talk that's going on. First off, I want to mention people in the chat. Man, my text messages are going off like crazy. I want to say hi to Patricia. Thank you for your constant support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As well as Al Love, you've been a day one. Thank you. After this weekend, that's right, only 4 teams are going to be left in the Pac-12, and y'all make sure to hit that like as you're coming in here. It's going to help push this channel out. It's going to help keep the proverbial lights on here at David Talks Buffs. But we're going to keep doing this thing regardless, right? But y'all hit that like. Y'all let me know in the comments what you think about all this. But I'm going to break it down, and then I'll get to what y'all are saying, right? So yesterday, we had Arizona apply for or was accepted into the Big 12, and we were wondering, okay, what are the next steps? Is the Pac-12 or is the Big 12 going to go after some other schools? It was rumored that Arizona State as well as Utah was going to be moving over here, and we all went to bed last night saying, okay, like, it's looking like that's going to happen. It's looking like Oregon and Washington, it's going to happen. But when we were talking about this late last night, there were a handful of reporters, including Greg Swain, who was here in the chat last night, saying that Washington was actually asking for extra money, which for all their travel costs. But hey, I wasn't too worried about it. I wasn't too stressed. But then what happens, man? I wake up this morning. The first thing I do, probably not healthy, is I just get on Twitter. I mean, that's what I normally do. It's like reading the paper, like 80 years ago, except the paper comes right to you in bed. I'm reading Twitter, or X, I'm sorry, and I see what? There's all this news about a Pac-12 media deal actually happening with the remaining 8 schools. Could that be a thing? But if you follow Pac-12 for as long as I have, there's one thing that is consistent with the Pac-12 is that they're all talk and no action. We knew that we were going to be disappointed by this, and that's exactly what happened. Now it looks like Oregon and Washington are off to the Big Ten officially, and at $30 million, I need to be checking my Twitter to make sure that this is the thing. But that is mind-blowing if they're getting less of a share. Yes, okay, so we got Matt Fortuna here saying, source, Oregon and Washington's annual cut of the Big Ten's revenue distribution is expected to start at $30 million and grow by $1 million each year through the current length of the deal. They will receive full shares upon the next TV deal in 2030 and 2031. They can also borrow off of future earnings if they need more money for travel costs. So that is kind of funny, but good for them on getting into the Big Ten. They're getting into a very stable conference that's probably viewed as the top conference to be in right now. So that's crazy. That's also funny that they're going to be making less than I think what all these Big 12 teams are going to be making. So I think that's awesome. Now, speaking about the Big 12, I had Tim Fitzgerald over here from Go Power Cat and 24/7 Sports covering Kansas State. We were talking about this morning, and he brought up a really interesting point, how, President Crow, I'm forgetting his first name, of Arizona State, he's been a pain in the ass for this whole Pac-12. If you didn't realize this or didn't know this, he was one of the reasons why it took way too many years to buy out Larry Scott and to get rid of him. He's been a big issue and big voice. He has a bigger voice than he should have within the Pac-12 conference, and he has been kind of he's just a pain in the ass. Honestly, if you're focused on moving forward with college athletics, he has been a hindrance to that. Even with a school with the alumni base like Arizona State, they've never really been able to come into the potential that I feel like they have with their alumni base and support. And a lot of that has to do with President Crow. And he brought up the point that the Big 12 might have some hesitancies bringing in Arizona State because of him, but we'll see. And then as for Utah, again, they've kind of had a very standoffish approach from the Big 12, but they were really left without any options. And yeah, are you kind of eating or cannibalizing the television market there? Out in the Salt Lake City, Utah area, sure. But at the end of the day, Utah's a good brand, and maybe some Utah fans or the administration doesn't realize this, but they are a Big 12 school. The way that they grow their talent, the way that they recruit, where they're successful at recruiting from, they do it a lot like these Big 12 schools. I think they're going to fit in well, like from that same strategic approach. And I'm happy to see that both Utah and Arizona State have applied. And really, the people who were calling this a year ago, like, y'all need to get up here and take credit. Y'all need to. But I mean, they're probably not listening to me. They're like professional journalists, right? But I look forward to seeing people take their victory laps with this that have been calling the four corners to the Big 12 for the last year. And we're at a pretty exciting point in college football with a lot of change. Now, I will say, and I mentioned this morning, this has got to suck for Oregon State and Washington State. You got to wonder where they go from here. Is there potential that they might get a life raft at a partial share from the Big 12? I don't think I would be opposed from that. The only thing is that if the Big 12 does go to 18 teams, I want to leave room still to absorb 6, get to 24 at least when the ACC starts to break up. I don't think that will happen right now, but we'll find out next week on the 15th. If Florida State's leaving or not. And that might open up a can of worms for more conference realignment and all that stuff. But I don't think I would be too opposed to having Oregon State and Washington State come over. I like the idea of basically the Big 12 absorbing the majority of the Pac-12, which I think is funny. But I don't really know what market value they bring for the next TV deal. Would that contribute to monies being diluted for the rest of the conference if we have some of these people or some of these programs that don't necessarily have the TV draw? Is that affecting the rest of these schools that should have a nice TV draw, what they're able to bring in? I don't know. So we're going to have to see. But overall, I think this is a great day for the Big 12. Obviously, this is a great day for the Big 10. And it's a terrible day for USC because I feel like they really wanted to be the only team on the West Coast in the Big 10, and that was going to be a huge recruiting point for them. But now they got to go up against the two other extremely strong programs on the West, and that is Oregon and Washington. Now, they're going to be at a financial advantage as well. With Oregon and Washington only having $30 million, and then it goes up by $1 million a year when they're going to be raking in a whole bunch of money. But, at the end of the day, they can still recruit guys to say, hey, you can come play Big Ten football out here. But, man, I'm excited for the truck stop conference. Maybe that's really what we lean into and label ourselves if we don't sell the naming rights of the conference, right? Maybe we just lean into that identity, especially if we add Washington State and Oregon State too. But we're going to have to see. Will Oregon State get a life raft? Will Washington State get a life raft? What is the next move? Is this it? Y'all got to let me know in the comments. I got 30 of y'all watching. Really appreciate you spending your late Friday afternoon or early evening with me, David Talks Buffs. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I'm going to get to some of your comments, and we'll see how this goes. Appreciate you chiming in. Yeah, Al Love. Let's get those likes up. I appreciate you. Where is my Buffs flag? It's over there in that corner. That's where I film. But I got my desk here. It's not called Twitter. Yes, absolutely. Um, Chris Cobb, good to see you again. Thank you for chiming in. It's been a wonderful day of college expansion. It's officially over. Doomsday, finally for the Pac 12. Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if George Kliavkov is going to have a statement. I wonder if Stanford and Cal are going to issue statements. But yeah, really, I mean, this is the story of when you think too highly of yourself. And yeah, you just approach things from a ignorant, arrogant, naive standpoint, and that is the definition of Pac-12 leadership, especially over the last 12, 13 years, right? Ignorance, naivety, all of that. God bless realignment. Yes, we all love it. Absolutely. And this is a great time to be a college football fan, and I think especially a CU Buffs fan, because again, this time last year, we were expecting something like this to kind of happen within college football at some point, and we did not see ourselves making it. And I think you see a lot of celebration from from a handful of the fan bases in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is dead because we've survived. That's really what it comes from. Do I really care about Stanford and Cal? Being left out of this? Absolutely not. Um, I do have some sympathy for Oregon State and Washington State because they've pretty much done everything as right as you could as a small Power Five program, and their fortunes or whatever, their destiny was completely out of their control for the most part, and that's sad to see. But we'll see if they get a life raft or not. Chris Cobb bringing up a great point here. FSU is on the clock. Them in Miami will be in the SEC by next weekend. Absolutely, man. Well, that would be really interesting. I have wondered, how much interest is there in the University of Miami from the SEC and Big Ten? I haven't felt like there's as much, just from like what I gauge on Twitter, compared to FSU. I mean, I bet the University of Florida would hate to have FSU in the SEC. That's for sure. And I know the Big Ten would really want them. But um, I know Florida's been in the SEC for forever or whatever. But maybe they just pull a move, just kind of what they did with A&M. They said, you know what, screw you. We're still inviting Texas and OU. Because that's where the money's at. And maybe you might see that happen eventually with FSU and the SEC. I think they're a much better fit for the SEC. Do I have a desire to see FSU go up and play Penn State and Minnesota and Iowa and Rutgers and Maryland? Not particularly. Would I be interested in the matchups like a Michigan, Ohio State? Sure. Notre Dame, obviously. They're not in the Big Ten, though, but maybe they would join along with Florida State. I mean, that would be awesome, but you can. I think that would be pretty cool, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Miami because I feel like they're a brand that historically has been more showtime, in your face, swagger, all of that. And I think Brett Yormark is okay with approaching some of those schools and personalities. And I think having somebody like Miami in the Big 12 would be really, really, really awesome. And I think it would be a better fit than people might realize, just thinking of it right off the bat. Beryl Allen, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Looks like the only options for the remnants of the former Pac-12 is to merge with the Mountain West or the West Coast Conference. Yeah, is the West Coast Conference like Santa Clara and those universities out there, Pepperdine out there in the LA area? We're gonna have to see. If Oregon State and Washington State can't get in, I would imagine the Mountain West would be their next move. So we'll just have to see about that. But maybe, like Tim Fitzgerald brought up with me this morning, maybe this is where the Sun Belt gets a little bit aggressive in some ways. I don't really know how, because I mean those conferences might be a little removed from the Pacific Northwest, but maybe the AAC or whatever they get aggressive too. It's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. But in regards to the ACC, LBMS 67 says the ACC needs to take whatever left. That means the independents. Oh, so you're saying like Stanford and Cal would go to the ACC? That would be very interesting. But from what and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? Because I'm speaking from just like vague memory that could be wrong, okay? But from what I understand with it, this grant of rights deal with the ACC that they're in right now, um, it really locks down the schools from leaving, but it also hinders them from expanding as well. So I think that's why you've never heard the ACC brought up in terms of conference expansion, because of this issue. Really, the only possibilities were something along the lines of like a full-on conference merger with the Pac-12 or something, which I still think would have been an awesome idea. That would have been really cool to see, like a full coast-to-coast conference. But we're just not there. I think Stanford, obviously, they're not going to stick. They're not going to go to the Mountain West or care to stick with Oregon State, Washington State. I think them and Cal will go independent or go Ivy League, and that sucks because I can't remember. Is it? I can't remember his first name. Taylor, Coach Taylor, their head coach there at Stanford. I think he was at San Francisco State most recently, but I feel like he was a pretty good hire for their program and where they were at. And you've seen that they've been able to. I saw the other day that they were still bringing in like a top 5-star player, got a 5-star commitment or something like that. And you got to imagine that this is going to just absolutely kill what little recruiting momentum that they had. Oh, Dennis Dahl, man. This is the name, man. This is the name. I'll let y'all sit there with that. Bucky's, man. It is 2 C's, but I mean, I mess up my videos all the time, so I'm not correcting you to be a jerk. But if y'all don't know what Bucky's is yet, you're about to here in Colorado, because we got one opening up on I-25 on the way to Fort Collins here. And that's going to be awesome. But Bucky's, it is the premier truck stop. It is like a mall when you stop at it. It is an experience. They got great food, great shopping, and also the cleanest bathrooms. But man, it's a party. It's my favorite thing to do. Like, take somebody who's never been to Bucky's into Bucky's, and you've seen the billboards. You can hold. It's so true. They're always worth the hold. Man, I appreciate you, Al Love. Thank you. Yeah, Kevin Pryor. I think that's probably the move for the Mountain West, especially because Mountain West schools can't move without paying a buyout. But none of these Pac-12 schools got to pay any buyout. I really do think that's the move. Randall coming in here with some great insight here. Washington has huge money shortage in upcoming years, so worked it out. So that makes sense that they can kind of borrow ahead from the future in a sense. Maybe it's kind of like a loan. So yeah, they're able to pay off and afford some of those travel expenses, because outside of having Oregon and the LA schools to go to, they're going to be traveling across 3 time zones for a lot of these matchups, man. And that is just intense. But that is the era of college football that we're in. The one thing that I do fear with so much of this change is I think eventually this is going to lead towards expanded schedule, longer schedules for college football. And that is just the one thing that I would really like to protect, because I think because we play a shorter season in college football, you see less injuries. You see people are able to become more durable. And I think that it defeats the purpose of having any sort of balance as college athletics if you're playing 20 games at the end of it all. I don't want to see that. Car Wash Channel, awesome name, by the way. Yes, Utah's going to the Big 12. And this is great. I think this is awesome. We got the Holy War. I am very much looking forward to see you finally creating some history with Utah, with Arizona State, with Arizona, because we just haven't been good. And it's going to be awesome going into this year, knowing that we do have a handful of opponents that we're going to play that are going to carry over, because it sucks starting over 12 years ago in the pack. And we were so bad. We just didn't have any history. At least we have a little bit of history, not great history, with Utah, Arizona State, Arizona. We know those schools, we know those fan bases now for the most part, but y'all got to explain to me. Arizona, I still have never understood the bear down. Please explain that to me. I screwed it up yesterday, but it's just like the war eagle. What's the war eagle about with Auburn? I don't even know. So y'all got to let me know about that. But it's going to be good to have another heel in the conference. I think, obviously, I was talking about this on the Twitter Spaces with the Folsom Frenzy podcast today a little bit, but obviously everybody's pretty excited that CU's kind of returning back to the Big 12, even though it's a little bit different than it was a while ago. But uh, I wonder how long it's going to take for us to like really start hating each other. We're really going to have to see, but we're going to be in big time recruiting battles a lot with these schools in the Big 12. And I think this is going to help. Obviously, it's going to help schools like Utah that already recruit Texas pretty well. Schools like Arizona, Arizona State. I cannot wait for the recruiting battles that I mentioned earlier this spring. But I mean, they're going to start right now, going after a lot of these prospects. And we'll just have to see where this goes from here. But I'm glad that Utah is here. Um, I'm glad that they have survived and yeah, I'm glad that CU is going to have some carryover and some relationship into this new look Big 12, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. Man, we got a ton of people in here right now, so again, would really appreciate you leaving a comment about what your thoughts are. If you really want to make sure that I read your comment, throw me $1 on Super Chat or whatever. But as y'all know, like that, none of that is necessary or needed. I just love making sure that I'm discoursing with all y'all when I talk, when I hop on here on live. So um, I will continue on. Kevin Pryor. The ACC school's not going anywhere anytime soon. The grant of rights is airtight. Exactly. Unless they want to cough over 100 million, don't see it. I thought the number that was kind of floating around right now for Florida State would be like 500 million or 300 million, just absolutely insane amounts of money. Yeah, it seems like the ACC will be the next conference to fall. Will it be completely or torn apart by by the Big 12 or the Big 10, the ACC or the Big 12? I guess we'll just have to find out. But there are a handful of schools that I would hope that the Big 12 would target. I think a great primary target coming out of the ACC would be Louisville. They're centrally located and they're good at both basketball and football. And another one, obviously, this might be a little bit more divisive, but University of Miami. And they might kind of have that approach. Well, they don't want us, they feel like they belong in the SEC, but I don't know, man. Miami hasn't been too much better than Colorado over the last 15 years, have they? I mean, I don't know. Y'all tell me. Randall Hembry, Crow from ASU is on the hot seat, not sports minded. Yeah, if you're gonna be involved in, gosh, I need like a curtain. If you're gonna be involved in college athletics or college academics and all this stuff, you need to value college athletics. And we've been able to see there's enough data now with all these new TV deals and stuff like that. When you choose to invest in your football program, you're investing in the university and the academics. So, oh, hey, I just saw a super chat. Car Wash Channel, man. Thank you for the super chat. That's so kind of you. To Pac-12. Nah, 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 hey, hey, goodbye. Man, I love this, man. And this was something that I feel like we were anticipating for a while, was just when was this thing going to die? We kept hearing on a monthly basis, well, you can't, just wait till you see the new TV numbers. It's going to blow everybody away. It's going to surprise everybody what the Pac 12 is going to be able to bring in, and everybody's going to be laughing. And man, I was drinking that Kool Aid for a little while, man. And, I had to humbly come on here and say, I understand that I am wrong. And, that uh, this conference is going nowhere. And that's exactly what happened. And again, there are some schools that I feel bad for. Um, but this was our own doing, man. Like, as a conference, it's our president's fault, our leadership's fault for empowering people like Larry Scott, um, pushing Olympic sports as a television product. Um, Not smart. Who cares? But that's what we were doing, and we kind of approached this thing of kind of being holier than thou, or more elite than everybody, and we took our eyes off of the football field, honestly, and I'm talking from the pack perspective, but we deserve it. Everybody except Oregon State and Washington State. Well, maybe Washington State's president isn't fully um, like not responsible, but um, yeah, this was our own doing as a conference. Absolutely appreciate you, Car Wash Channel. It's too kind of you. All right, let's see what we got going on. Lonnie Johnson, thank you for chiming in here. What a great day for the Big 16. And absolutely. And this is something that you guys got to help me out with, because as much as I love the fact that Colorado's returning to the conference of the Big 12, I think it's time for a rebrand, man. Sometimes I think if we stick as the Pac 12, people are always going to look at us, or Big 12, people are always going to look at us as like just a conference that's not good enough, from the outside in. Or, yeah, looking from the outside in. Not that we don't believe that. I think that we can get somewhere if we continue to make the right steps to where, instead of it being a power two, it's eventually a power three. I think we're in the third best position right now as a conference, definitely ahead of the ACC. But we need a rebrand. We need a new name. And I love the idea, again, that Tim Fitzgerald brought up last weekend when I was talking with him about selling the naming rights to the conference to an athletic um, company such as Nike. Like, I would still be so down to do that, even without Oregon coming to the conference. Like, I think having something branded Nike would be super cool. And most of these schools are Nike. We would just have to take care of Kansas with Adidas. We'd have to take care of um, Texas Tech with Under Armour, but that should be expiring soon, I think. And then I don't know offhand, I can't remember offhand what brands Utah, Arizona State, and Arizona are with. But I think it's time for a rebrand. So y'all let me know what you think. Like, what would you want to see the conference called? But ultimately, the Big Ten has to go away from calling themselves the Big Ten. And I know they kind of call themselves big right now, or the B1G. That's lame. I think they need to get a new name too, even if they just call themselves the Big 18 or whatever. I would like to see us move away from the Big 12. We got more than 12 members now. We're at 16, and it's time for a new name that's going to create buzz that people are going to look at from the outside, and they're going to be intrigued and they're going to respect it. I love, man. Appreciate you. Y'all hit that like, man. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, man, Pete, I love the idea of Bucky's, man. Or Bucky's is two E's. See, my dumbass got it wrong too. I apologize. Whoever made that comment, Dennis Dahl, man, I apologize. I can't even spell it right. But yeah, we call it the Bucky's Conference, man. Nick M, good to see you again. Thank you for tuning in last night. Let me take a sip of coffee here. We can get this rolling. Pac-Rupp will end up in the Mountain West Conference. None of those schools would be willing to travel to the East Coast for games like the ACC. Cal and Washington State are in deep financial debt with athletics. Yes, and that's a great point. I mean, with now the Big 12 having some footing in those Eastern time zones, you're gonna have to travel out there at some point. And yeah, it is going to be hella expensive. And that's why I'm also excited that these teams that are being added right now, the four corner schools, you got the Southwest on lockdown, man. Um, and it also, I think, increases the probability of us doing a game, whether that's a football game or a basketball game, invitational, or a tournament, conference tournament over in Vegas. Like, come on. I love Vegas and I would love another excuse to get out there. So I think that would be wonderful. But you're right on the money, Nick. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what else we got going on. Car Wash Channel. See, absolutely. Pac-12. Rest in peace. We hardly knew ye. I mean that's really it because this conference did absolutely close to nothing as the Pac-12. They're a lot more successful as the Pac-10. Corey Flynn, good to see you again. Notre Dame fan, right? I think I remember. BYU and Sun Devils had a great rivalry in the old WAC 70s days. Well, I'm going to have to look into that. I love to hear that there's already history between some of these Big 12 teams and our newest additions now with Arizona State. And I love the fact that, Arizona State with Kenny Dillingham, like they're building something. I think that's going to be exciting, and hopefully this move to the Big 12 can really galvanize the fan base, the alumni base, to get the financial support that they need to really get there as a college football program. I think they did great bringing in Rashada after that whole thing fell out with University of Florida. But again, Kenny Dillingham, he comes here from Oregon, or comes to Arizona State from Oregon, which is a fantastic program. He's young. I think he's only just a few years older than me, but he's a bright guy and alum of that university, if I remember correctly. And I'm really hoping that this works out for the Sun Devils. So I love to hear that. And this is kind of random too, with Utah also coming into the conference. You kind of have this little added, maybe it doesn't mean anything, but Zach Wilson's brother, right? He's committed to Utah. So you guys will be playing, he'll be playing his older brother's alma mater, which is kind of cool. Now, was BYU also recruiting him? I would have assumed that they were. All right. Let's see what else. Lonnie Johansson, thanks again for tuning in. Welcome to the new members of the new Big 16, Arizona State, Arizona, University of Utah. So happy to have you. I love to see that, especially as coming from a Big 12 fan, a BYU fan for that matter. So I love that. Keck says, Corey, looking forward to that rivalry again. Man, I love to hear that. Corey Flynn, fear the fork. Absolutely. Now I just got to figure out what bear down means, right? Simon 2077 says, welcome to the Big 12, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Very historic day for our conference. And it's got to be so vindictive, or you got to feel vindicated, rather, about just everybody thinking that the Big 12 was going to die. And look what happens. Y'all take 4 of the teams out of a rival conference and essentially kill it after the Big 10 fired that first shot, taking the LA schools. Big time ballsy move. And as a Big 12 fan, you guys got to be feeling pretty amazing right now. Y'all hired a hell of a commissioner. I'm not really sure what y'all expected from Brett Yormark coming in. Forget if did he work for Rock Nation most recently before coming into the Big 12? Kind of an outside hire. I guess kind of similar to GK in that respect, but obviously have way different strategies, personalities, ways of thinking, ways to, I mean, it's just clear that Brett Yormark has done such a great job of unifying everybody, and now he has his greatest challenge ahead of him. How do you unify the conference with these four schools coming in, particularly Arizona State? Making sure that they understand their place along with the rest of us coming in here, right? We'll just have to see. Coy's little fishery. Excuse me. Thank you for tuning in. Here to talk about Utah. Ha ha ha. I was getting really scared we were about to get left out of the Super Conference talk. I mean, man, that would have just been a brutal blow because back-to-back conference champions and being left out in conference realignment, right? I know that not all Utah fans were like against coming to the Big 12 or anything like that, but again, I think they're going to be a great fit for the Big 12. And again, you just got BYU 45 minutes away, and I think this is going to continue to help recruiting. I think every program, honestly, outside, well, everybody from the Pac-12 is going to get a bump that moved into the Big 10 or the Big 12 in terms of recruiting. It's going to help them. So, congratulations on Utes fans. It was looking really scary there a few days ago, man. Like that y'all might just be left out back to the Mountain West. But here you are, just made it, by just an inch. But happy to have you here. Definitely. And man, I gotta say, man, I love the location of Utah. Beautiful, University of Utah, beautiful campus, right there next to downtown Salt Lake City. I went there last summer for the first time. Stayed right there by campus in an Airbnb, and it was just, um, man, it was awesome. I wish I had taken a visit there when I was looking at graduate schools, because they just make it so easy to get downtown. Jazz games are affordable. All of that, had great food. Um, I loved it. Cat, maybe FSU has some naming rights deal in the works for the stadium to cover the cost of an exit. Maybe I think they're going to need more than just a naming rights deal if they got 300, 500 million dollars to pay for something. We'll just have to see. Oh, Keck, you bring up a great point here. I always forget how close Louisville and Cincinnati are to each other, but they're a good sports brand, and I still would like to have them. Um, but we'll have to see. Maybe with what you're bringing up right now, maybe Cincinnati isn't exactly in full support of a move like that because of proximity. But big time basketball program, and their football team, they've had great years too, along with Cincinnati. Nick, I definitely think the Big 10, SEC, and Big 12 will all have targeted schools in the ACC whenever that goes down. Yeah, because again, if we follow Brett Yormark's criteria, he wants big brands that are on the rise, and he values both football and basketball. So that's why I was thinking, Louisville. That's why I was thinking University of Miami. Now, they haven't been like a basketball powerhouse, but they've had some good teams, and they've put a handful of players in the NBA that have had successful careers, including Denver Nuggets hero Bruce Brown. But of course, you have Duke and North Carolina. Those would also be one of my preferred targets if I was Brett Yormark. I think it's pretty clear that Clemson and FSU would be wanted by those other bigger two conferences, but maybe there's something that Yormark could pull to make them want to come to the Big 12. But realistically looking at it, I mean, I think North Carolina and Duke would just be perfect fits. And heck, maybe you get UConn over here for just basketball. I'm not interested in having them here as like a full-time conference member, but maybe there's something that you can do to just bring in their basketball along with Gonzaga once you kind of break the media deal apart here in the future or whatever. Because that's what I think should happen. Because I mean, I don't really care about going and playing UConn in football, but having them in the basketball conference, the conference of champions, right? I mean that's really what the Big 12 is now, right? We can call ourselves the conference of champions, especially in basketball, which I think is funny. But you bring in Gonzaga and UConn at the same time, right? Keck says Crow's not going anywhere. He's turned ASU into a juggernaut. Yes, when you're talking about enrollment, academics, all of that, that's a great point, Keck. He is completely blind to the value of athletics, but he has done a great job growing the university. Simon, Mountain Time Zone just gained a lot of new viewers from us from the East. Yes, and I love to see that. Now, I just hope with this going down, man, like I'm so sick of like having like 10 p.m. Eastern kickoffs and stuff like that. And maybe that's just the price to pay when you're located out here. But I'm hoping that CU, we only got to do that maybe once or twice a year. I would love for us to have some better time slots. But I think obviously the better your program is, the more popular your program is, the better time slots you get, right? Man, you're too kind, Car Wash Channel. I appreciate that. Hope all the car washing's going good. Nick M says, I believe Brett Yormark will be targeting Louisville, Pitt. Oh, that's right. Pitt, NC State, and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech. Now, that would be a great brand to have over here. Forget how big the ACC is. I'm sure there will be a lot of shifting around of targets as things start shaking out, but ACC will almost certainly go away. Yeah. And then there were three, to be honest. I mean, you said it, and man, we're almost up to 100 viewers. Like, man, I really do appreciate every single one of you. Again, I try and read most of the comments, but if you really want something up here, send me $1 on Super Chat or whatever, and I'll see it, and I'll make sure I respond to it. Lonnie Johnson, exactly. Conference of Champions, the Big 16. Keck says straight up not making the trip to West Virginia for any games. Where are you at again, Keck? Man, I don't know, man. I've never been to West Virginia, but I feel like West Virginia has a great game atmosphere. Similar. Well, it's not similar, but in proximity, Virginia Tech. If we were to add them to the Big 12, I mean, that would be awesome. I would assume the Big or Virginia Tech definitely feels like a school that the Big 10 would target. And Simon, you're right about this. The exposure these new Western schools are going to receive from the Central and Eastern time zones will really help all of you. It's going to help our recruiting. When you're recruiting Florida, Texas, the heartland of America, to say, hey, come out west, but you'll be able to return to play in your home states, and so family can come see you and all that. That's a lot easier of a sell, saying come play in the pack out west, and then you're going to be geographically landlocked to that region, and your family's going to have to pay, $300, $400, $500 a flight to fly out there, and then get the hotel and all that. That's just a lot bigger of an ask for families to send their kids away. How would the Big 12 not take Washington State over Arizona? Washington State has 5 top 10 seasons in the past 25 years and has won twice as many games as Arizona in the past 15 years. Absolutely. Cougs Johnson, you're bringing up a great point. Why? And I think the biggest thing probably comes what I'm thinking. I'm not saying I don't know these things off the top of my head, but what I'm speculating is that this has to do a lot with television market. And Arizona is still a very popular brand, especially for basketball. And maybe this was more of a basketball centered move with this conference, but still having their football team also geographically located closer to many of the Big 12 opponents is also a very big deal when you're looking at expansion, so that travel costs also aren't, crazy. So I think that has to do with it. And that's, that's the one thing, man. It's unfortunate that y'all, as long as Oregon State can pretty much do everything right as an athletic program, and right now is on the outs looking in. And maybe Washington State will get that life raft and Oregon State will get that life raft of uh, because of the fact that they're ascending brands and that they have been successful. Um, and you also look at it like this: like they are both legitimate Power Five teams, and you don't just let Power Five teams go away. You don't let them just fall away to the Mountain West unless it's clear that they don't care about their athletics, such as Stanford and Cal, which I would assume to go independent. But Coos Johnson, you bring up a great point. Um, Washington State, as well as Oregon State, they deserve to be in a big time college conference. I think the biggest thing that it's going to come down to is the conference, is the Big 12 conference okay with I traveling out there and stuff like that, and is Washington State and Oregon State, are y'all going to be okay with a partial share? Because I wouldn't assume that they would be getting a full share right now coming in. Maybe that could happen later on, and I'm not sure how that would affect television revenue. I don't. I know that Washington State, though, I do know that y'all have always kind of punched above your weight when it comes to bringing in viewership, which is great. And maybe on more of a televised platform, that brand would continue to grow. So maybe there is some potential in that. Brett Yormark, would really like to see them, as well as Oregon State, as that next move, and then just take half of the Pac conference. He's got to feel like a badass if that's what happens. But you bring up a great point. You can't let a successful Power 5 team just sit there. Oh, see, Cougs Johnson educating me right here. Washington State is top 25 in viewers nationally, averaging over 1.4 million per game in the last decade. Man, I love to see this. Well, then you have to imagine, right? You have to imagine that there's at least some possibility in the works for the Big 12 to get up to 18, because like I said when I first opened this up, if we do add Washington State and Oregon State, which I think from a competition standpoint, I don't have any issue with that. I mean, it only continues to strengthen the conference. And I mean, man, by far no slouches in the Big 12, definitely. And man, where was I going with that? Hold on. Oh yeah, you get 18 teams, right? You're at 18, and then that still leaves 6 for the destruction of the ACC whenever that happens, if you're trying to get to 24. Will these conferences go bigger than 24, man? I don't know. But that could definitely be the case. If they were to be added, if you're talking just about room, I think you still leave enough room to get to 24 if you don't have to bring in UConn at, their football team or whatever. Great point. And then they would be close to like Gonzaga. Rebranding will eventually happen. We need to see how many we end up with. Yes, a big time athletic sponsor would be cool. Yeah, that's a great point. We got to see what happens with the rest of the conference, with where Oregon State and Washington State go. Jorge coming in here. Utah's Under Armour 2. Well, great. Maybe we just got to all get them on Nike. But yeah, the more schools that we have with different apparel partners, that might make an apparel sponsor for the conference a little bit more difficult. But heck, maybe Buc-ee's really will pony up the money for the Buc-ee's truck stop conference. I mean, hey, if they're providing another $1 billion, every year for the conference, I'm just joking. But let's just say it's $1 billion because they're oil. They're in oil and gas, right? Buc-ee's, they got the money, but they give us another $1 billion. I mean, how can you say no to Buc-ee's? And then imagine beaver chips just everywhere. I'm a fan. AMAC, major recognition to Colorado for having the vision and the courage to move when they did. Great job. Welcome back to the Big 12. Man, AMAC, I really do appreciate that again. Hats off to Um, our leadership, sometimes you have to reach rock bottom in order to understand how to rebuild. And that's exactly what happened. We were on the brink of death going into this point or this season last year, and the administration woke up. It was rumored that our athletic director, who's a great athletic director, Rick George, had been interviewing for the athletic director position at Auburn. He denied that. I mean, you have to if you're him, but I think that, along with just how fed up the fan base, the alumni base got, how abysmal it was just seeing our team lose by like 30 to 40 points each game, getting blown out by Air Force. It was just kind of the combination of everything at once, where the chancellor, DeStefano, President, man, I always forget his name, Salomon. They really woke up and got us moving in the right direction again. Keeping Rick George, allowing him to make this hire for Coach Prime, and continuing to stay aggressive. We've been on an aggressive pace for the last 10 months, and I hope that we keep it up. Going into this new conference. But this is a new era for Colorado, man. We were sorry as hell within the Pac-12. We did not contribute. We did not help strengthen the conference. And I think that's why there were some schools that didn't care to see us go again, as a week ago, and that would question the value that we would bring to the a brand of a conference moving forward. But this is a new era for CU. We're going to be competitive. We're going to be in there. And I think Coach Prime's going to probably stay a little bit longer than maybe some of you people initially imagine. All right. And like I said, I'm trying to get through these comments, but if you want to ensure your comment is commented by me, hit me up with a small little super chat. All right. Astro Magnus, are you guys looking forward to away games in Boulder? Well, I'm going to answer this from kind of two perspectives. One, being out here in the Denver Boulder area, very happy and excited to have Big 12 fans coming out here, because the tailgating is going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to meeting many of you, and I know y'all bring amazing barbecue skills with you, and that's going to be great to elevate the food that we have being eaten on campus before kickoff and all that. Now, as a Colorado fan, I'm excited to make it out to more of these Big 12 cities. I want to go to a game in Lubbock. I want to go to a game in Manhattan. I want to go to Stillwater. A lot of different places, and yeah, just experience the fanaticism that Big 12 colleges have around football, because coming over here from the Pac, along with our other 3-4 corner schools, we got a lot to learn and to take from y'all when it comes to fanaticism. And I think that's going to be infectious for us, going and playing against fans in schools that care immensely. And CU used to have that, back when we were in the Big 12, but it definitely died because of how sorry we were, and the fact of just like we haven't been in a very passionate athletic conference. Half the schools, even though like UCLA is in the Big 10, it's like not like they were ever, a passionate fan base that really cared about anything. Obviously Cal and Stanford, they haven't really cared, and it's just not life and death for a lot of the Pac schools, like it is for the Big 12. And I really look forward to experiencing some of those games. Oh man, Corey Flynn coming in here with a perfect comment here. Whataburger presents the Whata Conference. I love that. I think that would be great. You got them in Phoenix. We got them out here now in Colorado Springs. Hopefully we get more Whataburger out here, because I love Whataburger. I love the honey butter chicken biscuits. That was Whataburger is one of my favorite things about living in Texas for 7 years, along with Chicken Express. I love Chicken Express, even though sometimes it messes me up. I love that fried chicken. I love their sweet tea. Again, we don't have sweet tea out here in Colorado. People look at you like crazy if you ask for sweet tea out here. Chicken Express is where it's at. It's where Post Malone uh, got his first job before he blew up. And it was cool to see him do his collaboration with Crocs a few years ago at the Chicken Express that he worked at, handing out boxes of Crocs to customers at Chicken Express. You love to see that. All right, guys, I'm going to go here for just a few more minutes. Let me know if you have a comment for me that you really want to ensure is read. Feel free to send me a super chat, but I try and get through all this. All right. There was another conference name here. Laura Weiss. Hopefully, I pronounced your name correctly. Texas Tech Reckham, the Flying J Conference. Another great truck stop name. I love that. Let's get some oil money behind, but behind this conference. Let's really do that. Let's get a bajillion dollars to spread to the rest of the conference, right? I love that. Nick M says, I can see the Big 12 changing the branding slightly, but not necessarily changing the number. I've been told that they have trademarked Big 14 and Big 16, but not have independently verified. Yeah, I feel like I've seen that on. It might have been you that said it the other night or whatever, but I feel like I've read the same stuff, and yeah, I just think you have the Big 10 and then you have the Big 12, and big, it's kind of overused. Let's just do something else. But I hear you on that. What is realistic? I don't know. But if Brett Yormark's taught us one thing, it's just a dream big and outside the box. Okay, Whataburger is pretty good, man. A lot of good fast food in the South. A lot of good fast food. And I'm just going to say this right now. Whataburger beats In-N-Out every single time. Y'all might not like to hear that, but I firmly believe that. And I will fight you. I will fight you on that if you disagree. G Brew, thank you for tuning in. Yormark has been on the job for only 1 year. Look out, college football. The Big 12 is coming, man. Yes, I don't think he could have done more perfect of a job, right? Unifying the entire conference, having the foresight to move forward in a media deal before it was expected, jumping the pack, adding some of the major brands that weren't in Power 5 college football yet. Going after Houston, man. I love it, man. Especially with their basketball program on the rise. I just watched, the 30 for 30 the other day with my wife, the Sigma Jamma Phi. And that whole thing was really cool to watch and to learn about, because obviously I wasn't around before that. But, man, what a team they had. Big 12 stadiums are traditionally packed. Excuse my pun. Nah, I love it. And that's what we need. And man, like, I love Folsom Field, but man, I'm hoping that maybe on the north end of the stadium might lead to, we might have some more room to expand. But I would love to see you kind of get well above the 50,000 seat capacity they're at right now. Would love to see them get to something closer to 60 or 70, but I don't really know what is realistic. They would probably have to change some things about campus, but I still think it's doable because it's kind of on the edge, the north end of campus, as you're kind of going towards Pearl Street and all that. We used to hate coming to Boulder. Yeah, were we terrible to you? Were we throwing batteries at you and beers on you and stuff like that? I gotta know. I wasn't around for it. At this point, XII denotes the heritage of the brand and is recognizable. I will agree with you on that, Nick. It definitely is. So a change would actually defeat the branding purpose. Yes, I can see that point. I just think that some people, even if it carries that, especially for members that follow the Big 12 and are fans of programs in the Big 12, I would agree with you. I just wonder how people that aren't emotionally attached to anything in this conference views that term 12 or Big 12. Is it a negative connotation? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. Maybe I need to do some market research. All right. Don't don't falk up 23. All right. The good news for the remaining packed teams. As a UCF fan, I've been hearing for years you'd go undefeated in a G5 a time to put up or shut up, man. That's what I'm talking about. And by the way, I'm I'm looking forward to CU's battle against UCF moving forward. Hopefully, it's a yearly thing. We got the battle of black and gold. Obviously, we're going to be recruiting a lot of the same guys, going after a lot of the same players. I mean, who's that tight end that y'all just got? Come on. Keelan Fox, big time tight end that we were going after for a little bit, but it was just clear we were not going to be at the front of the pack when it came to his recruitment, and y'all got him. So that's awesome. I look forward to playing UCF. We both have, we got that shared national championship. I'm not really sure how that whole thing works with UCF. I mean, wasn't it just the governor or whatever that declared y'all national champions of Florida? I don't know. You got to educate me on that. But right now, CU has some work to do, and UCF has definitely had a lot more success than Colorado has had in the last 15 years, as well as for a handful of those other Pac schools. Patrick Mahomes built Whataburgers in Texas. He loves Whataburger. I love to hear that. Even as a Patrick Mahomes hater, as a Broncos fan, Patrick Mahomes, he's hard to hate. He's awesome. He has a great personality. He's a great man and a great leader, and he loves great food, right? So smart on him for getting involved in that. I loved when Peyton Manning came out here to play for the Broncos. He bought up a whole bunch of Papa John's. Now, like Papa John's, isn't like regional to Denver, but he appreciates just good, simple food. I love Papa John's. Papa John's over Domino's every time. Bro, get the honey butter chicken biscuits in. Absolutely. And those shakes, man. Also, I watched a movie the other week, and it was based in West Texas. Oh, what was it called? It had the guy from The Office in there. It was like a murder mystery. Man, the guy from The Office, BJ Novak. Is that his name? No, it's not BJ Novak. I don't know. But they had some really good, like small things that you would only know about West Texas if you've lived in West Texas. I lived in Abilene for 7 years. But that was a great movie. It was hilarious. Immaculate, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we have a lot of people out here. Man, y'all be sure to hit that like. I'll be going for a little bit here longer. We'll see what happens. Immaculate, the In-N-Out conference too soon. Man, I love that. Oh man, it's so funny. I love that. Timothy, I want to go to a game in Lubbock. Never been, but the game experience is top notch. Yeah, it is. And some of my good neighbors, they actually just moved a little while ago, just across the way from the apartment. Lubbock people, and we become good friends across the hallway. Yeah, the Flying J, and then we can have like 16 J's. You know what I'm saying? Colorado J's. I love it. Corey Norman, Utah 2024 Big 12 champs, calling it. Man, Corey, you're off your rocker. Nah, man. Corey's a good friend of mine. He's a big time Notre Dame fan. And hey, Corey, if you're still watching, you got to let me know how you feel about all this, man. Is Notre Dame finally going to be joining the Big Ten? Or are y'all just still going to go at it, try and get, $100 million from NBC? I am too busy. Love that name. I've never been to Texas, so I got to go to Texas to try it. Recently opened an In and Out in Texas. Yeah, that's right. They're in Dallas, they're in San Antonio. I would assume they're out in Austin since it's trendy out there, and probably Houston because it's so big. But a lot of good food in Texas, a lot of good barbecue. Tex-Mex is great. It's hard not to eat unhealthy in Texas because all that sort of food is just so good. Like I love it. Ooh, Mahomes also built the Whataburgers in Kansas City. Man, I love that. But man, Corey, sometimes yeah, you will get cold fries at Whataburger, but you know it 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 can happen at a lot of places, and it never happens at In-N-Out. You know what place it happens the most at? Freaking Wendy's, man. I feel like every time I go to Wendy's, they're just screwing up my order. It never tastes good. The idea of Wendy's always sounds better than what it is. You always feel like you're eating stale food, and it's always unfortunate. And then their frosty machine, man, it's broke half the time. But you know what fast food chain that I'm a fan of that I get a lot of flack for? Arby's. I freaking love Arby's. Bathe me in Arby's sauce. Laura Wise, do you think Crow will be a disruptor in the Big 12? He better freaking not. We better shut his ass up. That better be one of the contingents on him coming over here that he's just going to shut up, man. That he's not going to play any part in any major decision making for the conference on any media deals, anything like that. He can focus on growing his enrollment out in his LA campus and all that, and the online enrollment numbers and all that. But he needs to shut up when it comes to athletics because his track record, especially with doubling down on backing Larry Scott being his biggest supporter within the conference for years, that man has no right to have a seat at the table for any decisions that are made athletically for the conference. All right. All right, guys. I'm going to go and enjoy my Friday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. A lot of new people in here today. So I really do appreciate you. Be sure to hit that like and comment if you're watching the replay on what your thoughts are on this. And even though I don't respond to every single comment, I do make sure that I read all of them. And it's greatly appreciated as I build this thing here on YouTube. But y'all be sure to hit that subscribe. Please consider subscribing because we're building something fun here at David Talks Buffs, and this is what it's like. We have fun with college football. We enjoy it. It's all good vibes. We're going to be able to talk with the fellas consistently. I got some exciting things coming up for the show, for the channel moving forward. So y'all be sure to stay in touch with me on Twitter as well at just at David Talks Buffs. And I'm sure that I'll have more to talk about. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow to talk more just about CU's football because I mean I got a lot of comments to make about the first 3 days of practice, and but Big 12 fans really appreciate your hospitality on welcoming us back into the conference that we left 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Really appreciate it. And Arizona fans, ASU fans, Utah fans, glad you're coming over here with us as well as we survive the changing landscape within college football. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. And as always, Sco Buffs.